Amara was only 12 when her world turned dark. Her mother, the only person who truly loved her, fell sick one rainy season. At first, Amara thought she would get better, but day after day, her mother grew weaker. She could no longer get out of bed, and soon she could not even speak. One morning, Amara woke up to the sound of wailing. Her mother was gone. The pain of losing her was like a knife to Amara's heart. She cried until there was no more tears left. At the funeral, her father sat quietly, staring at the ground. He was broken. He was shattered. His lovely wife was gone. That very day, Amara felt as if a piece of her heart had been ripped away. Life was never the same again for both Amara and her father. Her father, heartbroken and lonely, remarried a year later. His initial motive was to get a good woman who will help him to take good care of her daughter Amara and make her feel the love of a mother again. But it didn't go as planned. That was when Amara's suffering truly began. The day Madame Ebere entered Amara's home, everything changed. At first, the woman pretended to be kind. She smiled at Amara and even patted her head like a loving mother. But Amara felt something strange in her touch, something cold. "You must be a good girl," Madame Ebere said swiftly. "If you behave well, we will be a happy family." Amara wanted to believe her, but something about the woman's smile made her uneasy. It did not take long for Madame Ebere to show her true colors. The first thing Madame Ebere did was to take control of the house. She rearranged everything, moved into Amara's mother's old room, and acted as if she had always been the owner. Amara tried to adjust, but things only got worse. One morning, she woke up to Madame Ebere shouting, "Amara, where is my wrapper?" Amara ran out, confused. "I don't know, ma." Madame Ebere's eyes burned with anger. "You are a useless girl. I left it on my bed and now I can't find it. You want to make my life difficult, eh?" Before Amara could explain, a sharp slap landed on her face. Tears filled her eyes, but she bit her lip to stop herself from crying. From that day on, her life became a nightmare. Amara was turned into a servant. Every morning, before the sun even rose, she had to wake up and sweep the entire compound. After that, she would go to the stream to fetch heavy pots of water. Even though there were other people in the house who could help, she cooked the food but was always served last. Sometimes, there was nothing left for her. Meanwhile, Ifunanya, Madame Ebere's daughter, did nothing but eat, sleep, and play. One evening, as Amara was washing a pile of plates, Ifunanya walked into the kitchen. She picked up a bowl of soup, took a sip, and immediately spat it out. "Yuck! This soup is tasteless." Madame Ebere stormed into the kitchen. "Amara, what kind of nonsense food did you cook?" Amara trembled. "I cooked it the way I always do." Another slap. "From now on, you will not eat unless the food is perfect," Madame Ebere declared. Amara watched as the food she spent hours cooking was thrown away. That night, she went to bed hungry. The worst part of it all was that her father did nothing. At first, Amara believed he would protect her, but he only sighed whenever she complained. "Just obey your stepmother," he muttered. "She is your mother now." Amara wanted to scream. How could he call this woman her mother? Her real mother had been gentle and loving. She never raised her voice, never raised her hand. But this new woman was a stranger who had stolen her home. One night, as Amara lay in her small mat on the floor, she cried silently. She missed her mother. She missed the way things used to be. She wished more than anything that she could wake up and find out that this was all a bad dream. But it was not a dream, and the worst was yet to come. The maltreatment continued, that every day Amara would pray and wish that she can't wait to leave that house before her stepmother skins her alive. As God may have it, when she was just 18, it's as if her prayer was answered, even though it was not in the way anyone would wish. One evening, Amara was in the kitchen washing plates when she heard Madame Ebere laughing loudly in the sitting room. "My dear husband," Madame Ebere said sweetly, "I have wonderful news." Amara froze. Whenever Madame Ebere spoke in that sweet voice, it meant trouble. She peeked through the doorway and saw her father sitting in his usual chair, looking tired. "What is the news?" he asked. Madame Ebere grinned. "Ifunanya, our beloved daughter, have brought a man home. The young man's name is James. He is a billionaire business mogul in the city. He will marry our daughter Ifunanya. In fact, Ifunanya is already 3 months pregnant for Mr. James. I told her to get pregnant for him, to grip him so that we don't lose him to another woman. Mr. James said he will come and pay our daughter's bride price soon." "That's a great news," the man said. Madame Ebere scoffed. "That's not all. I have also found a husband for Amara." Amara's heart stopped. "What?" her father muttered. "Yes," Madame Ebere continued. "There is a friend of mine that told me about a man named Mr. Okafor. He is a bus driver and he is looking for a young bride. He has agreed to marry Amara, even though he is a bit old, but it doesn't matter. He's just 45. Age is nothing but a number. I think Amara needs such a man that will tolerate her stupidity. In fact, I have it all planned out. Amara will first of all have her small wedding with Mr. Okafor. Then thereafter, our daughter Ifunanya and James, the business mogul, will have their grand wedding that will shake the whole village." Amara stepped forward, her voice shaking. "I don't want to marry anyone old enough to be my father. 45 years is almost thrice my age." Madame Ebere's face darkened. "Who asked for your opinion?" She turned back to Amara's father. "You know we don't have much money. This marriage will lessen burden on our heads." Her father rubbed his forehead, looking troubled. Amara ran to him and fell to her knees. "Papa, please, I don't want to marry him." Her father sighed and looked away. "It is for the best, my daughter." Amara's whole body went cold. He was not going to stop this. She was going to be forced into marriage. Tears streamed down her face, but nobody cared. Madame Ebere only smirked. "If you refuse," she said, "I will make your life even worse than it is now." Amara had never felt so helpless. Her fate was no longer in her hands, and deep in her heart, she knew her life would never be the same again. Amara cried herself to sleep every night after she heard the news. She begged her father. She pleaded with Madame Ebere, but nobody listened. The wedding was set to happen in 2 weeks. Madame Ebere wasted no time. She bought old fabrics, called the village women to help with cooking, and spread the news everywhere. "She is lucky," one woman whispered as they pounded yam for the wedding feast. "Marrying Mr. Okafor is far better than staying in the hands of that wicked stepmother of hers. Even though Mr. Okafor is old and poor, but the young girl will at least rest for once." If only they knew the truth. The day before the wedding, Madame Ebere walked into Ebere's small room, holding a new wrapper and blouse. "Wear this tomorrow," she said. "You must look beautiful for your new husband." Amara sat cold in the corner, her face swollen from crying. "I don't want to marry him." Madame Ebere's eyes turned cold. "You have no choice." She threw the clothes at Amara and walked out, locking the door behind her. Amara heard the click of the key. She was a prisoner in her own home. She have cried, but it seems her tears cannot save her. She have no choice. On the wedding day, the sun rose, but for Amara, there was no light. She was forced to bathe, forced into the wrapper and blouse, and forced to sit still while Madame Ebere's friends decorated her face with powder and lipstick. She felt like a doll, lifeless, helpless. The village square was not crowded. It was meant to be the wedding of a poor man, a nobody, a bus driver. Mr. Okafor arrived in a long flowing agbada, his belly shaking as he laughed. Amara's stomach twisted. He was an old man. His beard was grey. His hands were almost wrinkled. He could be her father. And now he was going to be her husband. She was led to the center of the gathering. Her hands trembled as she held a wooden cup of palm wine. Tradition demanded that she find her husband among the guests and give him the drink. Slowly, she walked past the smiling men, her heart pounding. She saw the young man, Ebuka, who had once asked for her hand in marriage. He looked at her with pity. She saw other men, young, strong, full of life, but she was not allowed to choose them. Her steps felt heavy as she reached Mr. Okafor. His thick lips stretched into a grin. She wanted to throw the cup away. She wanted to run, but where would she go? With shaky hands, she knelt and handed him the drink. The crowd erupted in cheers. The wedding was sealed. Amara is now officially the wife of Mr. Okafor, a 45-year-old bus driver. After the ceremony, Chief Okafor took Amara to his compound. It was a small dusty house with a broken fence and an old wooden door. Amara's heart sank. I have been sold into a life of suffering. Chief Okafor noticed her expression and chuckled. Do not look so sad, my dear. I have a surprise for you. He clapped his hands. Suddenly, a sleek black car rolled into the compound. Amara frowned. Who owned such a fine car? The driver stepped out, smiling. He was a young man, no older than 25. Chief Okafor turned to Amara. Meet my driver, Ugo. The young man bowed slightly. Good evening, madam. Mr. Okafor then pulled off his agbada. Underneath, he wore a Crips designer shirt and gold wristwatch. Amara blinked in confusion. You think I am poor, don't you? Mr. Okafor laughed. That is what your stepmother believed. That is why she gave you to me so easily. He clapped again. Another car pulled up. Then another and another. Amara gasped as men in fine suits stepped out. Mr. Okafor's house transformed before her eyes. Hidden behind the broken fence was a magnificent mansion with tall gates. Servants rushed forward, carrying trays of expensive wines. Mr. Okafor's deep laugh filled the air. I am not just a chief, my dear. I am a billionaire. Amara's legs felt weak. Her stepmother had thrown her away, thinking she was sending her into suffering. But in her greed, she had unknowingly married her stepdaughter to one of the richest men in the land. Amara stood frozen, her mouth slightly opened. A few minutes ago, she thought she had been sold into suffering. Now, she was standing in the grand courtyard of a hidden mansion surrounded by luxury. Chief Okafor turned to her with a smile. You look surprised, my dear wife. She struggled to speak, but everyone said you were poor. He chuckled. That's what I wanted them to think. He led her inside the mansion. The walls were decorated with golden frames. The floors were polished like glass. Servants moved swiftly, bowing as they passed. Sit, he gestured to a grand leather chair. Let me tell you a story. I was once a poor man, Chief Okafor began, pouring himself a drink. Born in this very village. I worked hard, traveled far, and built an empire. But when I returned, I saw how people treated the rich, full of fake smiles and endless greed. He took a sip of his wine. So I decided to test people. I let the village believe I was poor, lonely, and old. His eyes twinkled with amusement. And guess what? Your stepmother, Madam Ebere, was the first to throw you into my hands. I have asked, and I heard you are a very good girl. Amara clenched her fist. Her heart burned with anger. Her stepmother had been so desperate to get rid of her that she never bothered to know the truth. Madam Ebere had given her away like a worthless object, only to a man far more powerful than she could ever imagine. Back in the village, Madam Ebere was in high spirits. She had just married Amara off to a poor man and married her own daughter to a rich man. And to her, it was a great victory. Now, there will be one less mouth to feed, she boasted to her friends. Then, news spread like wildfire. A trader returned from the city and spoke of a certain Chief Okafor, a billionaire, a business tycoon, a man of great wealth. He has mansion in Lagos and Abuja. The trader said he owns companies in different countries. Madam Ebere's smile vanished. Which Okafor are you talking about? She asked. The same one who just married Amara, the trader replied. Didn't you know he only pretends to be poor to test people? Madam Ebere's face turned pale. Her hands shook. It's impossible, Madam Ebere said. You came here to pull my legs. I am sure Amara bribed you to come here to try to make me feel bad. But you won't succeed. I know Mr. Okafor is just a bus driver. How can a billionaire be a bus driver? My own daughter married a billionaire. Didn't you see the huge car my daughter's husband, James, drive? Very soon, he will come and take me to the city to live with him and my daughter. Madam Ebere doubted it. She needed to see with her 2 eyes to confirm. Back in the mansion, Amara stared at her husband, still trying to process everything. She still couldn't believe everything was real. She had spent days crying, begging, thinking her life was over. But fate had played a trick on everyone. Chief Okafor leaned back in his chair. Now, tell me, my dear wife, what do you think about all this? Amara didn't know what to say. For the first time, she had power. For the first time, her stepmother could not control her. She thought about running back to the village, screaming at Madam Ebere, rubbing her wealth in her face. But a small voice inside her whispered, revenge is not the answer. So instead, she smiled and said, I think life is full of surprises. Chief Okafor laughed. Indeed, it is. And as Amara sat in her new home, she realized that fate had written a story no one could have ever predicted. In the village, Madam Ebere had not slept all night. She paced back and forth in her hut, her hands shaking. How could this happen? She whispered to herself. She had thought she was clever. She had thought she was punishing Amara by marrying her off to an old poor man. Now, the whole village was talking about it. Women whispered behind her back. Men laughed at her foolishness. Even her own daughter, Ada, looked at her in shock. Mama, you gave Amara to a billionaire, and you married me to his driver. Ada's voice was filled with anger and disbelief. Madam Ebere collapsed onto the floor. She had been so blinded by greed and hatred for Amara that she had made the biggest mistakes of her life. But she never believed it. She still doubted everything. She told her daughter, don't worry, my dear daughter. Your husband is a billionaire. He will come and surprise you. I promise you this. Amara is just pulling our legs. 2 days later, a sleek black car rolled into the village. It was long and shiny, the kind of car only the wealthiest people owned. The villagers gathered around in shock. Who could it be? Then the door opened. A man stepped down. It was James, Ifunaya's husband, the self-acclaimed billionaire business mogul. Madam Ebere was so happy. She smiled. She called her daughter Ifunaya and said, look at your husband. Your billionaire husband is here to make us proud. She said, in-law, welcome. I knew it. I knew you were rich. I knew it must be you. Amara's old bus driver poor husband would never afford such a huge convoy. When I saw the convoy coming in, I knew it must be you. They said you are poor, but I knew it's a lie. Madam Ebere tried to mock the villagers because of her rich in-law, but something unimaginable happened. James went to the back door and opened the car owner door, and Amara stepped out. She was dressed in the finest silk wrapper, her hair neatly styled, her skin glowing. She looked like a queen. Gasps filled the air. That's Amara, someone whispered. But she was married off to the old poor man. How then would she be in the back of the car as the car owner? Madame Ebere could not believe her eyes. Well, maybe James only decided to give Amara a lift as a sister-in-law on his way coming. But James said something that would shock the whole village. Mother-in-law, I am not a billionaire. In fact, I am not a businessman. I am a common driver. I am one of Chief Okafor's driver. In fact, Chief Okafor assigned me to be Amara's personal driver. I only claim to be rich to get your daughter's attention because I heard she like rich men. So, I used my boss's car to claim riches. The whole village shook. Madame Ebere was swallowed in shame. She could not believe her ears. Her heart pounding. Amara, she whispered. Amara turned to her, a calm smile. Stepmother. The way she said it made Madame Ebere shiver. Behind Amara, another door opened, and Chief Okafor stepped out. The villagers fell silent. Everyone had heard the rumors, but now they saw the truth with their own eyes. Chief Okafor was no poor old man. He was a billionaire. Madame Ebere fell to her knees. Amara, my daughter, she cried. Forgive me. I didn't know. I thought I was doing what was best. Amara stared at her. Best? She had stabbed her, beaten her, forced her into marriage. And now, because she had married a rich man, she suddenly wanted to act like a loving mother. Amara took a deep breath. You never treated me like a daughter, she said softly. So don't call me one now. The villagers gasped. Tears streamed down Madame Ebere's face. Please, I have learned my lesson. But Amara only shook her head. This is the life you chose, she said. Now, live with it. Then she turned and walked back to the car, leaving her stepmother sobbing in the dust. As the car drove away, Amara stared out of the window. She had spent years suffering in silence. Now, she had power, but the greatest power of all was knowing she didn't need revenge. Her stepmother had destroyed herself with her own greed. Now, Amara was free, and for the first time in years, she felt truly happy.